All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Serious Angler Podcast, where, as always, our main course for you will be talking and hopefully teaching you more about bass fishing. And, of course, that does not come without a distraction or 10 here or there. Whether you guys are here to learn or hear some bass and banter, you guys are in the right spot. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbert, and joined with me is Idaho's finest, Mr. Adam Deacon. And unfortunately, we are captainless again for this week. Full disclosure, we are actually recording this the day after we recorded with Matt Becker. It's still before Thanksgiving. And so unfortunately, Andy was not able to join us on this one, but we neglected to remember until like the very last minute of our outro that this was last week's show with Matt Becker was going to be the Thanksgiving show. So we do have some top 3 thankful fours in this intro for you guys. A little bit better late than never. But Deke, what's going on, man?
Man, not too much. Same old. Just sprint to get ready for next year and continue on. It's finally getting cold, and we're just enjoying a little bit of the season change here in Idaho.
Yeah. Do you feel like you get much like gradual change, or is it like just snap of a finger and you're fall to winter?
Dude, I feel like you notice the gradual change in the mornings when it's colder, right? But as far as just general, I just think we're in a new weather cycle all across the world where it's just like changes are now way more abrupt. It's like summer, winter, fall's like just an extension of summer. And then it's just like, there's winter. Like
We're here.
Right.
So, no knocking on the door. It's just they open up and just like family coming for the holidays. There is no warning. They're just in the house.
You got it.
And yeah. But yeah, dude, it's like that here, except it's been a kind of weird fall for us. Usually right now we are relatively pretty cold. In which a couple weeks ago it was like the last week of bow season, we got some pretty heavy snow with like highs of like 22. But the past week and a half, dude, have been like 50s, rain, and just like unbelievable winds. Like every day is like sustained 20 something, gusts 46, like just ridiculous, like stuff where it's like I can't go fishing in that. You know what I mean? Like it makes trying to go hunting a little bit difficult too, but that's good old Western New York in the fall. But hopefully that just means that with 50 degrees, it prolongs our fishing window. So that hopefully it does calm down a little bit here so I can try to get out a couple more times. But fitting enough, I'm going to have a walleye send here soon, which is kind of around our guest today.
Super fitting. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. With his dad being a walleye pro, we have Mr. Jay Shakur joining us on the podcast today. Looking forward to that one. Kind of be talking about really just keeping things simple. And he's been obviously so successful, seemingly in every stage of his fishing, but from trying to qualify for the elites to being in the elites thus far, from being rookie of the year, youngest angler, I think, to win an event, I believe. I think he still holds that title. First to get over 100 pounds of smallmouth, like basically almost winning AOI a couple times. We talk about all that from breaking down water to bait selection, just keeping things simple and efficient. And so we talk about that with Jay. But real fast, Deacon, I want to let the folks know we talked about it last week, but we keep seeing more ratings and reviews coming in of you guys that are stepping up, helping us out. You know, longtime listeners that are been on Apple or Spotify, leaving us a rating review helps us get shown more. And we've been sending some stickers out to y'all. So keep those coming. We have a pile of stickers to send out. So if we run out, we'll order more because appreciate you guys helping us out. But man, exciting show today. Anything? I know we recorded yesterday with Matt, so there isn't much of a business from the bass boat for this show. But do we got anything to share with the folks?
No, man. Not particularly. I think the biggest thing is always want to shout out our guys over at Rec Lending. Supposed to be December Fed meeting. So we should know on if there's any change interest rate wise. Likely it's not going to do much to maybe into January before we see like differences on some of that stuff. But hope you enjoy the holidays and always give our buddies over at Rec Lending. This is a good time when a little bit of a downtime. Everything kind of just shuts off, right? From like now until end of the year. So you have a little more free time looking at boats. Maybe have some questions. Reach out to the boys and gals.
Yeah. It definitely seems like December is just like people tap out
Dude,
of
it's
work,
true.
especially.
It's like what? Yeah. No. Anyways, totally.
Absolutely. Well, for people tapping out, if you are tapping into the show, appreciate you. And it just kind of came to me. This would be kind of cool to feature in some upcoming business from the bass boat segments. If you're in let's go outdoor space in general, and you view, because I think we saw the rise in content creators over the past 5 to 10 years, the rise of photographers, videographers in the outdoor space. If you feel like you have a unique occupation, business, something like that in the outdoor space, shoot us a DM or an email, because I'd love to kind of feature some of the things that nobody's really thinking about beyond just being a pro angler or working for a brand in the industry, and kind of highlight some of the different things you could do if you want to get into the outdoor space. So we'll call that out, and if it's unique enough, we'll give a share to you guys on the show. But something a little different. I
Or
know
have
that's came to
somebody
me.
on that has
Yeah, or
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, even better. We'll get you on the podcast. But yeah, give us a holler. Send us an email or a DM. We'd love to hear about it. But man, great show ahead of for us today. And I think without further ado, let's get them on.
Let's
Mr.
go.
Jay Shakur. Go. All right, ready? Outro.
Yeah. So wait, we're not doing the 3 things we're thankful for.
Oh, fuck me. Holy shit, that slipped right through the cracks. All right, let me just figure out the transition for that.
Okay. I was so confused. I was like, wait,
Send us something to DM. All right. Now let's get into the 3 things that we're thankful for Thanksgiving. A little fishing edition, and I'll kick things off and just keep things the right way going into the holidays, and say I am thankful for all of the emerging positive voices in our industry as a year 2025 where I feel like the industry and bass fishing as a sport had a couple black eyes. You know, whether it's people just tearing down the industry, or just bad apples emerging. There's been a lot of good apples and good positive voices that have emerged from that. And so I'm appreciative of them, and kind of positivity being the trend right now.
Dude, I dig that one. Yeah. Big. I mean, I think people are just sick of seeing negativity, and it's a cycle. And it's like, hey,
Absolutely.
enjoy the positive voices in
That's right.
fishing. We can all get along. We all care about fishing, just different parts of it. So
Yeah, that's right.
nothing wrong with it, with everyone's
Yeah,
own opinions and views. So I like that
absolutely.
one.
What you got?
Uh, kind of half joking, kind of not. I'm thankful to catch 3 PBs this year. I've been fishing for, dude, my entire life. Like, it's wild to have that happen all in the same year, especially for bass. But I caught my PB spotted bass at 522 this year. I caught my PB smallmouth at 705 this fall.
Whew.
And I caught my personal best largemouth in a derby at 1003 this year. So
Just drop the mic.
dude, I mean, just
That's it.
I'm thankful to have a year like that. It's just wild how that can happen and change.
Yeah,
And super blessed to have that happen, and pretty lucky.
absolutely. There's your top 3. That's it, folks.
That's it.
That's it.
No, I guess okay. A real thing. I'm positive or thankful for. That's not selfish related like that. Would be, I'm thankful for new friends and continued relationships and friends in the fishing industry. I feel like it is one of the ways that you and I and so many others in our spheres connect and make friendships. And when you're out on the road or at an event or even online like this, it creates a lot of opportunity to make friendships, and relationships and friendships are really what makes life go round and important. So good way. I really love how the fishing industry has done a good job of connecting a lot of people, and like you said, keeping things positive.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if you didn't start your podcast, I didn't start my podcast. Chances are we probably would have never met.
Dude, exactly.
Yeah,
That's the absolute truth, right? There's so
yeah.
many little moments you can think back on to, like, some great friendships that have started because of something as small as fishing. So
Yeah, I mean, look at the guys on tour professionally, content creators. I mean, yeah, just media in general, but yeah, all the different things of the spider web that all comes back to one thing, and it's bass.
Mhm.
But love that, man. With that, I'll say my second one is going back to the event. We had the pleasure of being invited to the Black Bass Symposium in Houston, Texas, that Barden got us down to. Was basically is a for folks that may have missed those shows or don't know what I'm talking about. You're new to the show now. Is it was the meeting of the minds, if you will, of a pile of state agencies across the country and all of their fisheries biologists meeting to talk about some of the different topics, issues, and discussions right now. And really, it was all fishing because the American Fisheries Society put the event on, but bass actually got their own little, like, basically building to discuss as a whole, just with one species. So it was cool to see all the people there, some of the studies that are going on behind the scenes that the public doesn't even know about, which is why we were invited to help bridge that gap of communication. But just to see how many people are fighting for the future of just the sport of bass fishing and our fisheries, people highlighting the issues and trying to do their best to dig into why those are issues and how we fix them.
Mm.
So I'm appreciative of them and the work they're doing, and I feel like the future of bass fishing is in good hands.
Love that, dude. Totally,
Yeah,
totally the truth. So, more
yeah,
positivity on taking care of our resources.
yeah, yeah, man. I don't know if you have
Third
a
one.
third one, but I'll just let it rip. That this is I'll go the selfish route here. Not that these either of ours were selfish, but more self-reflective in that this is my first year, full time podcast and content creation, and it's
Mm,
been an awesome one. Made a lot of mistakes, had a lot of wins, successes, which is what you want. You can't have it all be one way or the other. So I'm learned a lot and I'm better set up for it for next year. And enough to keep us full time, which is great to hear going into next year, and just the amount of experiences I had from some of the bigger ones really being like traveling out west to some of the tournaments with you on the BAM tour. Like that was some of the highlights for me this past year. But um, really thankful for the opportunity I've been given to chase this thing, man. And it's a lot of that's the people that listen to this dang show. So appreciate y'all.
yeah. Heck yeah, man. No, love that one. Uh, come a long way, and it's been cool to watch your journey into full time content creation, podcasting. So, love to see it.
Appreciate that, dude. Thanks.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, the fishing's gotten better, the podcasting's gotten better, and I still can't grow a mustache. That's the one pillar we're missing. Yeah.
One day.
One day. But you got a third one, man, for the folks
um,
that you can grow a mustache.
I am proud of my mustache. No, I would say the last thing for me, I'm gonna kind of go fishing, not fishing related. Um, man, I've had some friends in my life, and just and you watch your parents, grandparents, everyone else just get older, and also just friends have injuries and things, and like, man, I'm thankful for my health and our
Mm,
ability to go enjoy the outdoors and go fishing, right? I mean, I think there's times when you take things for granted. It's just a human nature of like, you look back on like, dude, I'm living the dream that I would have loved to have when I was 16 years old, right? But then you like
yeah.
get annoyed about something that's going on. And it's like the being thankful for um the health and the ability to get out and go still do the things I want to do, and have a passion. Not everyone can find their passion, and I'm thankful that we've been able to find ours.
Dude, that is not talked about enough. Is I genuinely feel bad for people that don't have a purpose or direction.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
makes me so sad to think about.
Right.
Like I think about that actually quite often. Like if I didn't have the ability to go hunt or fish, what would I do with my life, dude? I mean, obviously I have an amazing wife and family, but like even then, they'd probably kill me after a week because I just have nothing to do besides drive them mad.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They'd be
a
like, get out
wild
of the
thing.
house, dude.
Yeah, leave us the hell alone, dude. But
Mhm.
yeah, having a purpose, man, that is so underrated. I love that one. But folks, with that, let us know what you guys think for. Comment down below. Share with us, whether it's Spotify comments, what have you, DMs. Would love to hear what you guys are thankful for 2025. But obviously, we are thankful for you for tuning in to this episode, taking time out of your day to listen to us rant. But with that, rant is over, and you're getting into what you came here for, and that is some juice for Mr. Jay Shakur. You still got us, okay?
Yep.
Cool. All right. First thing for you, before we actually get into the pod, we're gonna, with all of our guests for November, December, we're gonna have a culmination or a compilation show at the end of the year. That's like however many guests we end up having. Like it's top 14 learning lessons of 2025, however many guests we have. So I guess just real quick, if you don't mind, just your biggest learning lesson you think you have from the year of 2025.
Biggest learning lesson I have 2025 was to not get hung up on what you did the day before. I believe that was the biggest learning lesson, and it did cost me my Angler of the Year about 3/4 of the way through the season, just because I got a little hung up on the way I caught him day one and decided, I was going to try and force feed him on day number 2. And next thing you know, you look down at the clock and you're like, wow, there's not a whole lot of time for adjustments. So I'm going to keep trying, what I did the day before. And next thing you know, it's time to weigh in.
I feel like that speaks to everybody.
Every angler that's ever fished a tournament.
It's like probably one of the number one rules not to do, but it's so hard not to do when you just have to do it on the fly, especially on a place where you haven't been, but a couple of days of practice. It's just one of the hardest things to do. And especially when you have a lot on the line, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That was perfect. That was awesome. That one's going to be a juicy one. But all right, folks. Welcome back to Serious Angler Podcast, and we are joined with Mr. Jay Shakur. Jay, I can't believe it's been 6 years of this podcast. This is the first time we're getting you on here, but I guess better late than never, man.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Well, dude, to kick things off, being that it is your first time on here, every time we have a guest and it's their first time on the pod, we like to throw it back to, I guess, how you got into fishing. And of course, I'm sure that starts with Dad, but him being a walleye pro, I'm intrigued to kind of hear your upbringing and your, I guess, your story of getting into this life of bassing.
Oh man, where did it start? Well, for one, it started for me on the bank. That was number one. Or where I live geographically, we have the Wisconsin River, so we do have a lot of shore fishing opportunities, whether it be dams, places you can just sneak down through a couple acres of forest and come out and catch smallmouth, all current related stuff and things like that. And honestly, at the time, it really didn't matter what I caught. It could have been bluegill, bass, catfish. Actually, believe it or not, growing up, my favorite species of fish was northern pike. Now I despise of northern pike, but back then they were like my go-to because it was like the biggest fish to catch around here, other than like a muskie, which is, it's kind of rare off the bank and stuff like that. So, anyways, fast forward, my mom, my grandma, my dad, family, friends, anybody that would take me down to the bank for a couple hours every day after school. It didn't matter, after baseball practice, every day of the week. Going forward, that kind of transformed into family, friends had a couple of small boats they'd let us take out. We'd go fish some league tournaments around home, just some night tournaments with me and my buddies, stuff like that. We were still pretty young at the time. And then going on off of that, that's when my dad, I would always fish with my dad growing up, obviously on the boat and stuff like that. But I believe the first time we actually fished a tournament together was when I was probably around 11 or 12. It was kind of like the first time that, he introduced me to the tournament world. And it was just a small tournament we had at home on the river. And that was the moment that kind of got me hooked on bass fishing, because it was a 3 bass, 3 walleye tournament. So you had to decipher which ones you're going to go for first, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, we ended up going for bass first. I didn't catch any of our bass, but my dad ended up catching one of the biggest largemouth anybody's ever seen out of our section of the river that day. I ended up missing it with the net, and then net it when Ike and Ellie on it and everything back in the day. But anyways, it weighed a little over 6.25 pounds, which for around here was massive. And from that day forward, obviously we continued to fish that tournament. He slowly, started to introduce me to larger tournaments, like, for instance, the Sturgeon Bay Open we have is a pretty big tournament up north here in the springtime. But he wanted to let me get a little bit older, just because, that's big water out there. There's a lot that can go wrong. You really have to be, on your stuff, know what you're doing out there, and being safe and stuff like that. So I believe I was probably around 15 or 16. That was the first time I got to fish, a really big tournament with my dad out there in Sturgeon Bay in that big water. And we, in that tournament, you competed for a Ranger boat, which was a big deal at the time. And then, fast forward after that, I ended up buying my first bass boat. I didn't even have a car to pull it with, to be honest with you. I had a Toyota 4Runner that I don't even remember. It had like 280,000 miles on it, but we were so scared. We'd hook it up a couple times, and every time we'd back it into the river, we were scared that the parking brake was going to give out. We had to chalk the wheels and everything to make sure that it wouldn't slide into the river. But so fast forward off of my first bass boat purchase was when I thought about joining the Bassmaster Opens. Actually, I had a buddy that lived in Sturgeon Bay, and he wanted to fish it as a boater. And so I got to travel with him as a co-angler at the time, which was kind of my next step into the tournament world, I guess you could say. And somehow I end up doing really well as a co-angler. Actually end up winning 2 opens, which furthermore invested that money into a little bit bigger bass boat. I ended up buying an 18-foot bass boat. And after competing on those 2 years of the opens, I ended up trying to qualify for the elites the following year. Shoot, I think that was 2021 now, when they still had just the 3 tournaments where you could qualify to get in. And I said, well, what the heck? I had those 2 co-angler things. I had a little bit of money under my belt, went and bought that boat. Actually, I had a buddy that had a truck, and we traveled around. So we used his truck and my boat, because I still didn't have a truck at the time to pull it down to Oklahoma and all those places. And luck would have it, I ended up qualifying in those 3 tournaments. And the next thing you know, it was like, holy cow, we got a big learning curve in front of us. But at the same time, I knew I was kind of ready, I guess. But you never know what could happen, because it was a huge jump with entry fees and everything like that. So that was kind of a quick little, I guess, coming up of me anyways.
I think looking at your track record thus far in the elites, I'd say you're ready for sure. I don't really know how much of a learning curve there was, but
it worked out. I mean, it wasn't at the time when I qualified. There was a choice to fish either the Northern Division or the Central Division and the Southern Division, I think they called it. And I decided to fish the Central, and then I believe I fished the Southern as well. So I fished 6th that year. I didn't want to fish the Northerns, because I thought if I qualified in the Northerns and not in the other ones, I didn't think I would be ready to compete with those guys down south. Because I really didn't have outside of those co-angler tournaments, I really didn't have a whole lot of experience like in Florida and all these other places. So I was like, well, if I can qualify through the Central, which was on Smith Lake, Grand Lake, and Pickwick, I thought, I would at least be ready enough to cash some checks on the elites, or at least, be okay financially. And it worked out.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I like the idea of that, of like, hey, if, progressing at the way you feel like is necessary to be successful at the top. Because we've seen it so many times, right, in this game, where someone qualifies off of a certain series. If you look back at like the era of when the Southern, I guess more of the Central Opens were always on like a river system, right? When it was like Muskogee, right, going out of Oklahoma, and then it was the Red River and something like that. Like how many of those guys that qualified for the elites, off of their 3 tournaments that were all river fisheries, and then they make the elites, and then they just are out of it in 2 years because they were really good at those bodies of water, but didn't have the experience kind of everywhere. So the cool way to handicap yourself to make sure you were ready. It's smart.
Yeah. Versus taking if I do just the northerns, I know I could make it there, but after that I might be kind of screwed.
Yeah, I mean, it was like
way I
that.
look at it.
I didn't even think I would make it to begin with. To be completely honest with you, I think I was more just like at the time because everyone's like, I only had 2 years as a co-angler and obviously had that success. And everyone's like, you should jump up to the boat or you should jump up to the boat or blah, blah. Like it wasn't even a plan of mine to jump up yet. I was going to do another year or two as a co-angler. And then I got to thinking about it, and had that opportunity with one of my good friends to, he uses truck and stuff like that. And yeah, so I guess I wasn't super like it wasn't like a instance where like I had to qualify. You know what I mean? Like I just wanted to go in there and cash a couple checks, basically.
Yeah. Did you ever have like a backup plan, whether it was a
Yeah,
degree or a lane if bass fishing didn't work?
yeah, kind of. I had so actually at the time I worked as a mechanic for 4 years locally. He actually sponsors me now, which is really cool.
That's
And
cool.
he let me fish at the time, let me take off 2 weeks at a time to go fish. So that was pretty awesome. And then also at the time, I was getting just a 2 year marketing degree at a technical college here in my hometown. So I was also doing that at the same time. So yeah, I mean, my ultimate goal, and me and my dad talked about this a lot because he didn't get his start till later on in life. Like it wasn't nearly as early as I had it, and he pretty much told me, you obviously you want to fish for a living, blah blah blah, but this might happen when you're upper 20s, 30, in your 30s, something like that. It might not come right away. It's different for everybody, and it just so happens that it worked out for me early in life. But my ultimate plan was, maybe by 30, I was hoping to be on tour traveling, have a good funding by that point and stuff like that. But yeah, everything just lined up absolutely perfect and couldn't be more thankful for it.
Say so.
That's awesome.
You last thing on that, and from the upbringing standpoint, do you think having that understanding of a multi-species, how everything kind of cohabitates, really benefited you in the long run?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot, and I've seen it firsthand, especially at home. A lot of our inland lakes and rivers and stuff like that, and just seeing my dad progressively throughout the years, the way he dissects structure and mapping and electronics and stuff like that. A lot of the two species are very similar. Walleyes and bass. They're both game fish. They're both after the same prey. They're both looking for something to eat, places to hide, things like that. So a lot of that goes hand in hand. I think it had a good I don't know what you'd call it, impression on me growing up as far as, where fish set up. I think it was more, it's crazy to say it nowadays with everything we have, but electronics wise, like growing up, right when, I started to get taught about electronics was right kind of when like side imaging became huge and like 360 and like mapping just became like a really huge deal. And that was probably the biggest learning curve that my dad taught me. And it wasn't just bass based. We'd be out, on the Bay of Green Bay, be fishing for walleyes. There's a reason why these fish are set up where they're at. You can really read fine contours and stuff like that fishing for walleyes. So that really helped me a lot.
That's awesome, dude. I
Yeah.
love that aspect of it.
What an interesting time frame to be coming up, right? Like through side scan, all of that.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I guess, as it relates to walleye guys, what's something that maybe bass guys could learn from walleye guys, especially at the tour level on the walleye side of things?
I would have to say how much more detailed walleye fishermen are. For instance, I'll give you like an example. Like, a lot of bass guys, we have the outlet of just being able to go to the bank and go pick up a fish or two, flip a dock, fish a lay down, fish something that we can visually see in front of us, where the walleye anglers they don't quite have that luxury. Walleyes can be set up on a spot, as big as half of your garage door. And if you don't hit that spot, spot on the spot, and we're talking before, live scope and everything else. So I think just the fine details of walleye fishing, and not only the fine details, they're also very picky color wise. That was another huge thing that I picked up on walleye fishing, especially just looking at all my dad's, trolling baits and stuff like that. Like there'd be a reason why those walleyes would react to that crazy pink and white and yellow combo rather than, blue and chartreuse. It's crazy thinking about it firsthand, but now that we've come along so far in the bass world, you start to realize hey, these little details actually, they do matter now that these fish have seen so many baits.
That's so intriguing, dude. And yeah, when you talk about the color aspect, some of the wildest colors I've ever seen have all.
Oh yeah,
it's walleye stuff.
Yeah, it is crazy for sure.
That is the one species I'll say outside of bass that I really would be interested in learning more about, because I fish for walleye maybe 2 days a year, and it's in a creek that is like 20 foot wide and 4 foot deep. And for whatever reason, they're in there when it's December.
Sure.
It's more like it's spinnerbaiting for them too. So it's like
Mhm.
you're basically going bass fishing for walleye.
Right. Yeah.
All the walleye I've caught basically outside of the wintertime have been punching or on top water. It's the weirdest thing here in New York, dude. They don't make any sense. Yeah, I've caught some giant walleyes punching rats. Like for whatever reason, you go largemouth, big walleye, largemouth.
Mhm.
It doesn't make any sense, but
Dude,
they're so intriguing to me.
Yeah, man. Like I feel the same way. Like I grew up in Colorado, so like fished kind of some of the Wyoming, South Dakota, like that region walleye stuff, like just on the bodies of water that I was smallmouth fishing. And then now being out west, like the Columbia River, man, is got, insane walleye population, big ones. And it always blows me away because I've like learned now on forward facing and stuff to really tell the difference as much as I can. But like every once in a while, like I got tricked with a glide bait this year on the Columbia, where like I ripped a glide bait across and had a 7-pound walleye crush it. I mean, crush it. And I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Big smallmouth. It was a giant one.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny. Well, dude, kind of speaking on this, kind of might go hand in hand with this. But your approach to fishing in general, it seems, at least from outside looking in, from a fan perspective, it seems like you keep the bait selection relatively simple. And so like it definitely seems like your focus is on finding some of the more aggressive fish, feeding fish, finding areas versus trying to find the $30 JDM bait that nobody else has.
Yeah.
Is that true? And if so, I guess, how did that come to be, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it has been true for the past, well, I guess ever since I started fishing the elites and kind of into the co-angler days a little bit, because it wasn't necessarily like when I had success as a co-angler, it wasn't necessarily because I was throwing something completely different. It was mainly just because I was throwing in the places that my boater wasn't. Or, my boater would say, hey, I just got, bit right there. Like I might let my bait sit right there a little bit longer, or whatever it may be. Um, I'm more the guy, like you said, that likes to go out and find the active fish. I'm not so much a bait guru, I guess you'd say. My boat isn't filled with, $60,000 worth of tackle and things you've never seen before, and super light line and blah 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 blah. That's not my style. My style is to go out and, like you said, find those active fish. But I will say, in recent years, it is becoming a little more important to become a little more, I guess, go outside the box a little bit, just because the fishing pressure has become a lot more, even in the last 2 years, than it has anything, in my opinion. I've seen it firsthand at home. We just fished a tournament on lacrosse. Those fish have seen a lot of baits in the last couple of years. There's no doubt about it. The tournament scene has absolutely exploded in the last couple of years. But that's not saying you can't get bit on those same techniques. I'll just do something a little bit different. That's what I tell most people. If someone's going out throwing a half-ounce jig, daily, maybe you should lighten it up. Maybe you should go with a 3/8 or a quarter. Show them something a little more natural. Maybe go to a natural color. Maybe if the water's, like on the river at home, it's pretty dark, pretty brown. I almost try and match the water sometimes. I'll use like a green pumpkin in a really dirty water just to give those fish a little bit different look. You're still using that same bait, that same 3/8 ounce jig, but you're just not using what you would think the other angler would be using, in my opinion. You just try and change it up in that aspect, and I feel like I've had a lot of success doing that over the years. That is one thing, like I just mentioned, like matching the color of the water. I feel like that's kind of a big deal, especially around places that are a little bit dirtier. It's different when there's something else going on in the ecosystem, like a shad spawn or something like that. Obviously, you want like a white or something like that. But if those fish are really pressured, like around home on the river, 9 times out of 10, if I match the watercolor with like a green pumpkin and I can barely see my bait, that's when the fish are probably going to, be most aggressive, because it's the most natural thing in the water. And when it's coming by them, they don't get a great look at it. And when they see it, they're like, yep, that's a crawfish. And they suck it in, and you pretty much got them 9 times out of 10. But if I drug for instance, like an orange craw by them with a lot of orange on it, very, noisy in the water, but it's still dirty, but you don't think they can see it very well. You'll be surprised how much that stuff doesn't get bit compared to something that they can barely see.
So kind of going against the grain of people talking about contrast.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's kind of, I'm not a huge believer in the contrast unless it's super early in the day or very late. I think that makes a difference. Like first thing in the morning, first hour, I'll pick up something that, move it quick, that they can, find very easy. But once the sun gets up, or any light gets up for that matter, I feel like those fish, anything that's more natural to them, I'd prefer.
That's juicy.
No, it makes sense to me. Yeah. From the aspect, especially when you're talking about pressure fish. If it's hard for them to really pick out what could be fake about it, right? A bright color, big contrast. Makes a lot of sense, right? Not always just on super clear water fish to do that. Well, man, as you kind of mentioned, being a finding the aggressive fish. What's sort of your process for breaking that down? Say you're on a body of water. Let's talk kind of maybe a traditional practice for an Elite Series event. What does that look like? And what's kind of your process?
My process. Well, we get 3 days. And I kind of tell this to everybody, and it's usually pretty close to what ends up happening, give or take the situation of, if I know the body of water a little better, then, I kind of have an idea of where I want to be and stuff like that. But let's just go, for instance, if I don't know the body of water, which was 90% of my Elite Series career so far, going into it. So we get the 3 days. The first day, let's back up a little bit. In practice, or pre-practice, I guess you'd call it, if I did make it to the lake, I would divide the lake into 2 different sections. And for these 2 sections, we're talking, somewhere where I know I can do what I like to do, whether it's flip a jig, shake a minnow, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. I'll pick 2 different areas of the lake, generally, let's just call it 3 to 8 mile sections, something like that. Nothing crazy big, but enough water where it'll take you a whole day to figure out. Let's say one day I have a really good, not really good, let's say I have a mediocre practice in one of the areas. Day 2 of practice, I'm going to go to a completely different area, try different techniques, maybe do some of the similar techniques that I did in area number 1 on practice day number 2. And then come day number 3 of practice, I'm going to decide which area was better, and I'm going to go back into that area and basically try and figure that area out better than anybody else. That's kind of what's been my, I guess, mentality on the Elite Series is, if I'm going to spend an entire tournament, let's say in so-and-so creek or in this 3 mile area of the lake, blah, blah, blah. If I know more about, this creek or this arm or this section of the lake, I'm going to end up, coming out on top of everybody else that's fishing in here because I spent the most time in here. I know where every little nuance is. I know where the fish are setting up. Whether it be maybe I caught them here in practice, but I know there's a place that looks really similar that they weren't on 2 days ago, but I can go try it during the tournament. And that's where a lot of graphing comes in. I don't necessarily, I probably have some of the worst practices out of everybody. And that's just because I don't really fish a whole lot. I like to get a bite or two and then just kind of run off of that and just do a lot of graphing. When it comes down to actually like playing with baits and techniques and like what fish will bite, I like to do that during the tournament because, I'll rig out, a bunch of stuff, kind of my core basics and things like that. And, because every day is different. I don't want to get, like I talked about earlier, I don't want to get hung up on what I did the day before. They're biting, whatever it may be. And then I go in there during the tournament and they're on something completely different because the sun was up or the clouds were out or whatever. So that's kind of how my practice goes. And then, before all that even happened, a lot of these areas that I'm picking out on the map is all online research. Google Earth is huge for me. And then obviously, everybody has the access to YouTube and things like that. And it does help. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you just need an idea of, techniques to use, what the lake's going to look like at that time of the year, YouTube is huge from that. I don't necessarily go on YouTube to try and find spots or things like that. I just go on YouTube to give me an idea of, what's it look like in February at this time of the year? Do the fish look pre-spawn when they catch them? Do they look kind of post-spawn? What's the water clarity look like, temperature, blah, 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 if you can figure that out. But other than that, yeah, that's what I use YouTube for. And then the rest of it's just Google Earth and Navionics, just to figure out where the deep water areas are, where there's a lot of cover in the water. Pre-practice can be huge for me at times. There has been some times where it's worked out, and there has been some times where it has not worked out for me as well. And that goes back to getting caught up on what you did the day before, because when you go to a lake 2 months earlier from where the tournament is, chances are those fish probably aren't going to be very close to where you caught them. So that's kind of how I go about it. I just pick that area that I had the better practice day and try and dial it in even more. And, let's say that area that I practiced, I end up fishing the tournament there and it's not going well. Well, I still had that area that I practiced on day 2 in the back of my mind. I'm sure I caught a couple fish there, saw something I liked. And that would be the ultimate backup plan in case that first area failed. So I kind of have, if you see me running around in a tournament a lot, it's probably not ideal. I'm one guy that, like, if I'm going to do well in a tournament and top 10 it, I'm probably not going to pick the trolling motor up too many times. I'm pretty dialed into an area, and that's happened to me quite a few times on the Elite Series, and a lot of my best finishes. Well, even like when I won the St. Lawrence, I mean, I had 2 spots. I rotated 2 spots for 4 days and picked up the trolling motor 4 times.
Wow.
Dang.
Yeah.
Now, when you mentioned like the amount of time graphing, is most of that at the console, or are you getting up on the trolling motor too looking?
So it used to be more on the console than it was the trolling motor when I first started, like back in 2022. Now, the last couple of years, I do a lot of that looking up front, just because there's a lot more you can learn, in my opinion, real time on live scope rather than, just graphing around with side scan. But that's not saying you can't learn stuff on side scan as well. I more utilize the console for, hey, is there, a good population of bait back here? How tight are these contours actually? Is it really that steep? Is it pretty flat? Are there scattered stumps around? Is there grass? How far is the grass coming off the bottom? Just simple stuff like that to give me an idea. And then that's when I'll get up at the bow and look around. You want to look around places that are high percentage, like pinch points, stuff like that in the backs of creeks and, places where you think there's going to be bass, and if there's not bass, chances are that creek maybe doesn't have the greatest population of fish, and you should probably go somewhere else.
Damn.
Yeah, big takeaway for me there is just kind of the way you break down an area on the macro level, and then dial into the baits, right? I mean, so many guys are looking for trying to figure out how to get those fish to bite right away, and spending all their time dialing in a certain technique. But it sounds like you're breaking down an area and really learning all the components of it to then do your actual fishing and bait testing. You've got your basics, your consistency, the things you're good at, and you're trying that out. It seems like more so in the Derby.
Yeah, that's how it's been almost for every tournament. I like when I do find an area I like or something like that. I mean, I'll spend a couple hours in the boat the night before the tournament, rigging up everything that I think will work in that area. Chances are I'm probably only going to be throwing 1 or 2 rods, which is normally what always happens. But it takes one cast. You throw a different bait at one fish. It takes one cast. You know that fish's reaction right away, if he liked it or not. And you can put that bait away for the rest of the day. So I don't think you necessarily need to waste all that time and practice. When in the tournament, chances are you're going to be throwing your confidence stuff regardless. And I've always fallen back on that every single time. I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw this, I'm going to throw that. It never happens. When you're out there and there's $100,000 on the line, you're going to pick up what you're most comfortable with 9 times out of 10. You're going to put it in your hand and you're going to catch those fish.
So true, man.
I love it, dude, because it's like a theme with you on this of just keeping this thing freaking simple. Like so many guys, I feel like myself included, when it comes to practice, especially on places you've never been to, like it's so easy to spread yourself out and just overcomplicate things. Of I want to check out this thing in this creek, and then this thing in that creek, and it's 20 miles away, and then this thing in this creek that's 30 miles away, and it's like you can just really overcomplicate it versus I'm just going to hunker down in this one section.
I will say, though, the last couple of years, it's been getting harder for me to do that, just with like all the new stuff coming out and like just all the doc talk in your ears of just like, they're biting this or they're biting this new bait, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, yeah, but I really don't want to like do anything else,
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Then you see what stuff like Taku and Kyoya are doing. You're like, gosh, dang.
yeah, I'm just like,
no. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I think every angler can agree in getting caught up in that and kind of the craze and the trend. But man, this is one of our favorite segments here in the show, and that is our Amped Outdoors electric take. And this is where we ask a bold question, hope for a bold answer. And obviously, Amped Outdoors is our solution for lithium batteries here at Serious Angler. But man, our question for you is, in talking about breaking down this water and keeping things simple, what do you think is the biggest mistake that anglers make when trying to break down a body of water?
Biggest mistake people make. I feel like it's probably pretty repetitive and said a lot, but it's something that's really intimidating. And I don't think a lot of people realize that until they actually dump their boat in the water. And I make this mistake a lot personally. It's something that's really hard to get out of, in my opinion, is everybody wants to see the whole lake. Burning too much gas is probably the biggest mistake, I guess, looking at it as a whole. And I'm guilty of it all the time. I'll go around and, burn, way too much gas. And I just wasted 5 hours of my day looking at places that I probably should have fished, but I've also looked at 15 other places that look the exact same, and I probably should have fished those too. And then I finally end up on my 16th place that I've looked at, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to look at this one. Like, I run into that problem a lot, and I feel like I waste too much time doing that. But there is something to be said, don't get me wrong, about, seeing the entire lake and what you like. But at the end of the day, more time studying certain areas is way better than just looking at land features, in my opinion. Like, if you're just going to go around and look at the shoreline and stuff like that. I mean, our mapping's so good nowadays. Like you can almost pick where you want to go based on the techniques you like to use, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm very guilty of picking the trolling motor up and running 6 miles down the lake for absolutely no reason when I should have just went around the next corner. Yeah, I need to do that a lot less in 2026 and just keep it a little more in the zone, because the more time you're dialed into an area, you're going to catch more fish.
Love that.
I like it. I like it. Well, with all of this and obviously forward-facing changing rules-wise in 2026, how does your approach change, or do you think it's going to change a lot in the events, as you approach practice this way?
Yeah, it'll change for sure. It's going to change a lot for me. I think it's going to bring back a lot of what I used to do at home personally. A lot of at home, I mean, it's very hard for us to live scope on the rivers we have at home. You based in current, very dirty water, very shallow water and stuff like that. So it'll be nice to go out and, do a lot. What I did at home is just basically a lot of flipping, swim jigging, stuff like that. So it'll change up, my logic of, hey, I don't need to be out there looking for, necessarily like isolated stuff offshore, things like that, deeper than, 8 to 10 foot, because my accuracy and my percentages go way down as soon as I kind of get into that depth range without the technology. I mean, let's face it, you get deeper than a certain depth and, next thing you know, it becomes a lot harder. Your techniques are very limited. You're kind of more, you can fish the middle of the water column or right off the bottom. You can fish a lot of bottom baits. And other than that, you don't know, if the fish are even reacting to your stuff or not. So it's going to go back to the home roots for me, beating the bank quite a bit, but also doing stuff a little bit different. You don't want to get caught up in just beating the bank, looking for little nuances, but just sticking to that mid depth range for me and picking up my confidence baits is what's going to be for the no electronics tournaments. And then vice versa, when I do have the electronics, I'm going to be looking for the biggest fish, in the weirdest places, basically.
Love that, dude.
Yeah, that should be a t-shirt. Biggest fish in weirdest places.
Yeah. I love that. Dude, so as we start wrapping up, we have some more fun, lighthearted questions for you. And to kind of kick that off, if obviously in the theme of your dad being a walleye pro, if the walleye pros and the bass pros flip-flopped, and so the bass guys had to go chase walleye and walleye guys had to chase bass, who would you think, which side do you think would be more successful?
Oh, the walleye guys coming to the bass 100%.
Not even a question.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. If you were to put, and I think if you were to, you could almost make the argument too that they would be better with or without electronics, I think, in my opinion. I think walleye fishing is just so much more specific, and the guys that do have that knowledge of, the last 15, 20 years of where walleye set up and things like that, because not all walleyes just, float around. And that's not saying bass do that too, but walleyes are a different creature. I mean, they're mainly bottom oriented, unless you're on Erie or other places like that. But they're so current driven and wind driven and things like that. They move around a lot more than a bass does. And I think if you have all that information of, where walleyes were at one point, you'd be a step ahead of the game. The bass guys would, and me included, I would be completely lost if I went over to the walleye world and started to try catching them today. I don't think I would fare very well, to be honest with you.
It sounds like you're far ahead than most, though. Guys, especially guys coming from the South, would be like,
yeah, right.
What the hell do I do?
Right. Yeah, it would be crazy to see, especially if for instance there was no electronics, because the amount of techniques that walleye fishermen have mastered over the last however many years is crazy. It's not just trolling. There's so many little nuances. It's like bass fishing now. I mean, all the little different things that we do to our lures, it's no different than what they used to do. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I remember reading John Hoyer one. I think it was Lake Erie, and kind of how he was fishing like pretty shallow with pretty heavy jigs and grass. Like you see, he was snapping a jig or something like that. Is how he described it. Like stuff that when we're on Erie, we're not doing that for bass. Like we're out there deeper on some rock pile looking for brown ones, and it's crazy. Yeah, to that extent, the different stuff that they do, and talking with a Hoyer or a Mark Horst, things like that, and just it's wild. I had assumed you were going to go the favor the walleye guys, and I agree with you in that regard, because it seems like too, like granted smallmouth, I feel like a little bit more similar to that of walleye in regards to behavior, but you look at that, like you talked about Sturgeon Bay Open earlier on, you look at that, you see a lot of big walleye names in that open that are
let's just say the walleye guys 9 times out of 10 find more bass than the bass guys do find walleyes, if that makes sense.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I totally agree with that.
Total side tangent too, but it seems like there is zero hatred towards technology in the walleye side. Like I feel like
it's the best thing
everyone's in favor.
It's the best thing ever.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you think about it, they have been trolling on Lake Erie for the past, I mean, you name it, how many years, whatever it's been. Now they can go out and catch the biggest fish that they see rather than weed through 104 pounders to get 1 6 or 7 pounder. I mean, so the efficiency level of just having that electronic, to their advantage of walleyes is crazy.
Yeah.
That's an interesting, I mean total side tangent as well here, but some of the studies, Bailey, that you've talked about as far as for like forward facing, we're catching more fish than ever, but really at the highest levels, and the people who are using it, at a very high level, they're not necessarily catching all the little fish because they don't want to. The same way I targeting a big buck, right? They're looking for those bigger fish and just targeting those, and therefore like it's less than a guy trolling and catching 100 a day. So
that's what it used to be. You go out, and 9 times out of 10, if you're trolling, most of the day, those fish are coming out of really deep water. The chances of those fish, all those walleyes surviving, really isn't great compared to with live scope, where you're catching maybe a dozen a day of the biggest ones you see, compared to, let's say you accidentally killed a dozen trolling, they came up out of deep water and you caught another 60 of them. That goes to say, especially conservation and stuff, it's really not nearly as bad as people think it is.
Sounds like a future real biology, Deacon. That sounds like a new show idea. That's awesome.
That's all how you use it. Yeah. Well, man, funny question here. Just to pick on some of your peers on tour. What, as far as anglers on tour, who would be school-wise, if you went to high school people, think through personalities. Who would be the class clown, and who would be the guy that's just like trying way too hard in gym class?
Class clown? Kyle Patrick, for sure. He's always got to make something into something, whatever it may be. He's the class clown of class clowns. I mean, I think everybody kind of knows that at this point.
Yeah.
He's not really like a sneaky answer.
Good one though.
The guy that tries too hard. Oh, that's a tough one. That one for a minute.
While you think on that, I'll totally throw myself under the bus. That in the high school accolades, like people vote for, like you're like the whole senior class will vote, like who is the class clown, who had best smile, whatever. I was totally named the gym class tryhard, so I just throw myself under the bus there.
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I mean, if I have to just go with one off the cuff, I mean, I'll just go with my travel partner, Alex Redwine. But this more goes into like during like tournament practices and stuff, I think he tries to find like the craziest things and like just goes ultimate try hard, like doesn't eat all day. Like he'll have like 2 peanut butter crackers and like he'll come in and he's just absolutely starving, like drank 2 waters all day. And I'm like, dude, why are you like doing this to yourself? You know, like just,
You don't need to do that.
yeah, right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
We're all in on picking on red wine.
No,
Yeah, that's a good red wine camp. We're team red wine, making fun of him. That's great.
no, yeah,
Absolutely. Well, dude, like we started out the podcast with the question for his first time being on the show. We like to end with a question, being that it's your first time on the show, and that is, if you could pick 3 different individuals, sit down, have a steak and a beer, pick their brain. They could be alive 1,000 years ago, alive today. It doesn't even have to be fishing people. But what 3 people would you pick to sit down, have a beer, have a steak, and pick their brain?
I see Mark Zona a lot, but I don't have a chance to like talk to him like for a long time a lot. So I'd say Mark Zona.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? I'm trying to think. Brandon Polinick would be one. I always idolized him growing up, and it'd just be fun to sit around and talk with him for like an hour. That'd be fun. Zona, Polinick, and I'd have to throw in like Rick Klon. I just like a lot of like growing up. That was kind of like that St. John's tournament. I like idolized that tournament for a long time growing up because that was kind of like right before I qualified for the elites, and I just like his stance on a lot of things, and I think he's just a great role model for the sport.
Love that. Oh, I guess that's depends which St. John's tournament.
It was the second one he won.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the second one. When
was that the spin rate last day
when he ended up beating Chris Johnson? No reason to that, but yeah,
caught like 2 magnums on the spinner rate the last day or something like that.
Yeah,
that's sick. Well, dude, for real, thank you so much for taking time out and coming on the show. I dropped a lot of nuggets, on the back end. What people don't see, or even our guests see, is we try to keep tallies of like certain moments of the show that could make for cool social clips, like good nuggets, and we have way too many options.
Yeah, we got a lot down
here. Yeah, thank you for that. Seriously, people love that. That's obviously why they tuned into the show and tune in to hearing you talk. So appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was fun.
Yeah, coming on.
Yeah, always got to see you here, man, and we'll be talking to you soon. All right, folks, that is going to do it for today's episode. Thank you again to Mr. Jay Shakur for taking time out to join us. A lot of juicy tidbits in there, Deacon. Not even really a top 3 that I could point to that was like takeaways. Like there was a top 10 list, maybe. There's a lot of takeaways from him information wise.
Juice, dude. So like just confident, natural fisherman killer that's just quiet and just like he's not even quiet. He just is so even keeled through everything that he does and talks about. So
emotionless.
Yeah, just a straight killer. So great show. Man, what was some of your biggest takeaways? I know there's a bunch to talk about, but what was your biggest takeaway?
I think on the grand scale, I need to reform my practice strategy. And I think this actually helped me a lot in that of like next year going and chasing the full schedule for the Bassmaster Kayak Series in places I've never been to before, or I've been to and struggled, might help me mentally approach practice. And I think that's a big one here. I have a process right now that seems to work for me, but it only works in New York. So I think this kind of reform of breaking down new fisheries and giant fisheries at that, I think I'm gonna to put some of this stuff into practice and see how that works for me, of just simplifying things. Because like you talked about, dude, there was times last year and in recent years where I've gone to places like a Toledo Bend in Texas, and I'm like, man, I gotta try to find out as much as I can on this entire lake when you're in a freaking kayak, dude. Like you can barely spend 3 days in one creek. You know what I mean? So it's like that kind of strategy, I feel like, simplifies things and keeps it a lot easier to break down water, figure out if it's good, bad, different. That I'm gonna put it into practice versus overcomplicating things.
Dude, yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I totally agree. I think what it does is I it gives me hope or comfortable. I'm more comfortable leaning into that. I feel like that's the way I fish vast majority of the time right now. I think you witnessed that at Don
Mhm.
Pedro. Like I
Very much.
find an area and I don't move a lot. Like, and some of my best finishes are when that happens. And I've always had in the back of my mind, like, I don't know if I can ever win a big one doing that because, like, do you just burn through too many fish? You can certainly top 10 doing it. Um, but like that's worried me a little bit is like, do I need to change something up here? But anytime I'm running around a bunch, I never catch them. So it gives me the confidence to keep doing that in situations, especially on bodies of waters that you don't know and you've never been to. I think that if you can, I like that mindset of like, I'm going to learn this creek better than anyone else. And
Yeah.
if they're in this creek and it's meant to be like, as long as you're getting positive feedback and there's fish in there, right? Like you're going to figure out where the big ones are setting up, those sorts of things. So, yeah, I really appreciate the simplicity of his approach
Yeah.
and, overall it's clearly working for him at a very, very, at the highest level. So,
Yeah. I think you can definitely, to your point, I think you can definitely win on that strategy. As obviously Jay is shown at his level. But like, especially I feel like an emphasis on transitional times of year, like when you have all three stages going on, especially when fish are coming to spawn and they're leaving the spawn. Like if you can hunker down an area, that's where you can really do well over multi-day events. But man, maybe it just needs to be like a hybridized approach where it's like I'm gonna hunker down in this main area, especially in the BAM tour, format where it's I'm gonna hunker down this area, get to the last day, and the last day I'm gonna go to my area if it ain't working and just be fluid. Maybe it's a hybridized approach to that.
mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
that's why we fish, right? It's just for the learning and adjustment aspect.
Keep going and keep adjusting and slowly getting better, man. I don't know. That's something too that I've thought about more and more, man. I don't know if it's just a me thing. I am so slow at like at everything. Like whatever it may be, like I'll get there and I will work hard. It just takes me forever for whatever reason, dude. It just is what it is, and it's a slow grind, but like it's compounding over time, and it takes a lot of time. And so, stay at it at whatever stage you're in, fishing, fitness, whatever else it may be. Like you'll get there. Just got to be patient, and that's the hardest part.
You're gonna pop one next year. I can feel it.
That would be
Feel it
sweet.
in my bones.
Appreciate
Hey,
it.
we're just we gotta remember this episode from when you do pop one next year.
That would
We're
be.
calling it right now.
Oh man, well you're gonna
We've
like.
called a lot of winners on this show.
Hey, that is a fact. We've called some big time winners on this show.
Yeah.
Especially the fantasy fishing show. I feel like we're always like this guy, and it's like boom.
Yep. There you go. Or it's like guys that come on the podcast that have never won before, and then the next event win. And
Yep.
it's just like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not saying Serious Angler gives you good mojo. I'm just saying Serious Angler gives you good mojo.
It gives you good mojo. There's no
That's
doubt
right.
about it.
That's right.
No.
That's right.
Well, man, I'm excited to see you get back out nationally next year and chasing stuff down all over. That'll be fun to watch, and excited for you to come out west and head to Clear Lake too. I think you'll have a great time there in June.
Dude, the whole episode, that's exactly what I was thinking about too. Is I'm already getting so itchy to just go travel, go fish. Maybe just because of the New York weather that's getting to me right now. But yeah, I'm just ready to get back at it. And it could be the hunt burnout or whatever it is. But either way, I'm excited to go bassing, dude. And hopefully everyone learned something from this show. If you did, let us know what you thought. But appreciate everybody that tuned into this episode. And anything else for the folks, Deke?
No, man. It's holiday season. Spread some cheer, make somebody's day, make somebody happy. Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely. Folks, couldn't have said it better myself. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you on the next one.